Alice had passed away. By the time I received the news and rushed to the hospital, she was already lying alone on the hospital bed. Her frail body was clad in an oversized hospital gown, her cheeks sunken, and her lips pale. In a daze, I went to find the emergency doctor to handle the subsequent arrangements. As I walked through the corridor, I noticed a despondent man dressed in black sitting on a bench not far away. Our eyes met. His eyes were bloodshot, his face unshaven, and he sat there exhausted, as if all his energy had been drained. I averted my gaze and hurried past him. While sorting through her belongings, I discovered an old, dark red diary in a corner of a worn-out cabinet. At first, I thought it was just a notebook Alice had picked up. Being a rural woman, she was not literate. But as I opened the diary, one sentence caught my attention.
The escape failed. I can't go home. When I look into Olivia's innocent eyes, the only thought in my mind is to survive. I can't let that man ruin her too.
Escape, home, that man. It all pointed to one answer: abduction. No wonder when I asked her why someone as beautiful as she was would marry a man like David, who bullied the weak, she would touch my hair and fall into a trance.
Why haven't you sent me money this month?
I interrupted, she's gone. The man I should call my father paused for a moment, then a greasy smile spread across his aged face as he rubbed his hands together.
Sophia, your mom is gone, but your dad really needs money, you see.
I looked at him coldly. A man who had drained the life out of Alice had no right to continue living. A surge of violent emotion rose within me, and I lost control. I picked up a pair of scissors and, under his terrified gaze, plunged them into his chest. I thought I would fall into hell, but I didn't. I struggled to get up, looking complexly at the bamboo grove around me. How did I suddenly return to this village from the graveyard?
Emily, you lazy girl, where have you been? If you don't want to work on the farm, then leave. I'm not going to cook for you anymore.
I looked at the younger face of the woman from my memory, my mouth twitching.
Betty. Idiot is still an idiot. Look at you, can't even recognize me?
I pushed her away and ran to the stream. The clean water reflected a delicate face. But this wasn't my face.
What year is this?
Of course, it's 1980. Are you possessed?
I was stunned, and she quickly broke free from my grip and ran away, muttering.
Emily is really sick. What bad luck today.
I laughed and cried at the same time, my expression twisted. The 1980s, the peak of abductions, and I had returned to this era. Where was Alice now? If I could find her in advance, could I prevent her tragedy? I quickly took a shortcut to my house. Before I got close, I saw Margaret sewing outside, with Betty sitting on a small stool next to her, chatting.
Grace, you finally settled John's marriage. You can face your ancestors now.
That's right. This girl is really pretty, but her temper is terrible. When she first came, it took 3 men to hold her down.
Exactly. I heard she's been causing trouble in the woodshed these days. You must keep an eye on her. It's hard to get a wife.
I'm not worried. Starve her for a few more days. When she's too weak, let John handle her. Once she has a child, she won't run away. Women are soft-hearted.
The two of them laughed maliciously, their words dripping with cruelty. No wonder when I asked her why someone as beautiful as she was would marry a man like David, who bullied the weak, she would touch my hair and fall into a trance.
Why haven't you sent me money this month?
She's gone.
The man I should call my father paused for a moment, then a greasy smile spread across his aged face as he rubbed his hands together.
Sophia, your mom is gone, but your dad really needs money, you see.
I looked at him coldly. A man who had drained the life out of Alice had no right to continue living. A surge of violent emotion rose within me, and I lost control. I picked up a pair of scissors and, under his terrified gaze, plunged them into his chest. Narrator, tone, serious. My grandmother, Margaret, was indeed shrewd and cautious. Even when faced with a fool, she would carefully check the condition of the captured prey. I gritted my teeth and shifted my gaze towards the broken little window, planning to leave through there.
Don't leave me.
17 or 18-year-old Alice was someone I had never seen before, young and beautiful. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with clear admiration and hope.
Don't be afraid.
Hiding by the wall, I heard Grace's voice, gentle to the point of insincerity.
Girl, since you're here, don't think about escaping. I know everyone within 10 miles, and no one will let you get away. Besides, my son is decent-looking and honest. You won't suffer if you stay with him.
I sneered. John wasn't ugly, but he was far from honest, always up to no good and messing around with women. Honest and decent were the last words to describe him.
In my previous life, he even slept with the widow at the village entrance right in front of me. Thinking about it now almost made me vomit.
But my grandmother was indeed cunning. She and John played good cop, bad cop. Any ordinary girl would have resigned herself to fate by now. There was no sound from Alice inside, indicating she had taken my words to heart.
Since you're my daughter-in-law, you should call me Mom. You're here to bear children for our family. Mom won't let you starve, so I brought you some food.
I rolled my eyes. How shameless. As the lock clicked back into place, I vaguely heard a rustling sound from the woodshed.
You're really still here. What you said earlier, is it true?
Yes, it's true.
Emily's house should be by the riverbank. As I walked home, following my memory, a group of middle-aged men carrying hoes approached from the opposite direction. The leader was someone I recognized, a distant relative, my uncle.
Isn't this Emily? Where are you coming from?
I kept a blank face and didn't speak. He put his arm around my shoulder and pinched it lightly. I felt like bugs were crawling all over me and pushed him away with all my strength.
Mom doesn't allow me to get close to others.
You're crazy, Mom? What does a crazy person know?
I lowered my head and hurried past them, hearing the men's voices behind me.
Tom got rejected today.
That girl still needs to grow a bit. She's as thin as a stick now, not fun at all.
Yeah, better go to Widow Zhang's place, ha ha ha.
The men's filthy words and lewd glances stabbed into my back without any disguise, burning a hole in my back, making it sting. Only now did I realize how naive I had been. Alice always protected me so well that I thought this place was peaceful and harmonious. I never knew these hypocritical elders had such disgusting, repulsive sides. I looked at this village. It was almost dusk, and smoke was rising from every household, creating a facade of peace. But who knew, besides Alice, how many other girls had been deceived and abducted, spending their entire lives in this backward, impoverished place, living in a daze? No wonder when I asked her why someone as beautiful as she was would marry a man like David, who bullied the weak, she would touch my hair and fall into a trance. John, reeking of alcohol, walked in impatiently.
Why haven't you sent me money this month?
She's gone.
The man I should call my father paused for a moment, then a greasy smile spread across his aged face as he rubbed his hands together.
Sophia, your mama's gone, but your dad really needs money, you see.
I looked at him coldly. A man who had drained the life out of Alice had no right to continue living. A surge of violent emotion rose within me, and I lost control. I picked up a pair of scissors and, under his terrified gaze, plunged them into his chest. The next morning, I left the house early. I hadn't returned to this place in 10 years, and many of the paths were no longer familiar. To take Alice away, I needed to scout the area again. Once I had memorized the key locations, I wandered back to the village. As I passed through the fields, a woman blocked my way.
Where have you been, you little brat? Don't you remember you were supposed to help us weed today?
I looked up at her. It was this woman who had reported my mom the first time she tried to escape, leading the villagers to drag her back from the county. That was Alice's first escape attempt. She had prepared for the worst and was determined to leave and expose the village's crimes. Unfortunately, she didn't succeed. Alice was tied up by John in a small room.
Sophia, your mom is being punished for not behaving.
When it was over, I went in to see her. Alice's body was covered in wounds, red and purple, oozing blood. She lay on the bed, head tilted back, motionless. The man pulled up his pants, spat at her, and kicked me hard as he passed by.
Just as worthless as your mom.
After that day, Alice was pregnant again. It was said to be a boy, but the child didn't survive, and Alice's health deteriorated, leaving her unable to have more children. Because of this, Margaret's attitude changed, forcing Alice, who hadn't even recovered from childbirth, to work in the fields, which left her with lasting health issues.
This is better. I won't become a breeding machine.
Yesterday, I was too focused on finding Alice to pay much attention to her. But now, I wanted nothing more than to see her suffer. But I lowered my eyes.
I don't want to weed. I want to play.
I pointed to a group of children playing nearby.
With them.
Lily spat, reaching out to hit me, but I blocked her and slapped her back.
You.
She covered her face, pointing at me angrily.
What's going on?
Finally, you're here. A glint of light flashed in my eyes. I turned around, and sure enough, it was John. At this time, he still looked strong and somewhat decent.
John, I just asked Emily if she had eaten, and she hit me.
John clicked his tongue, taking Lily's hand and touching her face, scolding me with a look of concern.
Emily, that was uncalled for. Lily is so kind-hearted.
I watched Lily snuggle closer to him, and a sudden realization hit me. These two were already involved. If so, why wouldn't she let Alice leave? I lowered my head, trembling.
I'm sorry, Lily.
Then I ran away in fear. After running a distance, I looked back and saw John and Lily being affectionate. An idea flashed through my mind.
Why not test them?
Just as I was contemplating my next move, an opportunity presented itself. Betty's son, Michael, had returned home from working outside. I heard that he came back in a sorry state, having offended some local toughs and ended up with a limp. Betty and Henry were so worried they hadn't slept for several nights, thinking that Michael was almost 30 and still hadn't found a wife. They wanted to betroth me to him.
In my shabby little room, I watched Betty sitting in front of me, talking endlessly about how accomplished her son was. My gaze swept over the things she brought, only 3 eggs. I sneered inwardly, as expected, trying to fool a fool.
Emily, what do you think about what Betty said?
Seeing me lost in thought, her eyes flashed with dissatisfaction. Before I could speak, Julia rushed in with a stick.
I'll kill you. Don't take my Emily away. I'll kill you.
Betty's face turned pale as she dodged the blows, trying to calm her down.
I won't take her. I won't take her.
Finally, with nowhere to hide, Betty retreated to the door and spat at Julia.
Crazy old woman.
I laughed at her limping figure. The next day, Lily reluctantly came to my house. Seeing her from afar, I took Julia's hand.
Later, Lily and I need to talk. Can you wait outside and not come in?
She lowered her head without speaking, silently shrinking into a corner. As soon as Lily entered, she wrinkled her nose.
Look at this rundown place. You'd be better off marrying into our family and enjoying a good life.
Her gaze paused on Julia, and the disdain on her face lessened a bit.
Honestly, are you really going to spend your life with your crazy mom? Let me tell you, if you marry my brother and have a big, healthy son, your life won't be bad.
What does living a good life mean? Like you and Tom?
Lily blushed and, unusually, didn't retort.
Sort of, what do you know?
But I saw John with a young wife at his house.
Lily's smile vanished.
So what? I'm expecting, if I have a son, can that woman compare to me?
My expression darkened as I looked at her belly, understanding dawning. What if Lily's child didn't make it? John was a philanderer, destined never to be faithful to her. Grace wouldn't miss the chance to gain a daughter-in-law without paying a dowry, naturally siding with Alice. John and Lily's affair was undoubtedly hidden from Betty and Henry. Knowing John well, they wouldn't want Lily to marry him. At this point, Lily saw John's true colors. Losing her sanity, she knew Alice wanted to leave, and in her twisted mind, if she couldn't be happy, no one else could either, so she exposed Alice. But what if Lily's child survived this time? Then there would be a good show. I could take advantage of the chaos to get Alice out. So, Lily's child must be born safely.
That's great, Lily. You and John look perfect together.
Lily gave me a satisfied look.
You do have some sense. If you marry my brother, your life won't be bad.
Seeing my hesitation, Lily grew impatient and left a meaningful remark.
You fool, do you even have the right to refuse?
The Lee family's firm attitude suggested they were considering something. Otherwise, forcing a fool into marriage would be easy, especially with Henry being the village secretary. It was both a reminder and a warning. In the corner, Julia moved and suddenly let out a continuous scream. Startled, I leaned in and heard.
Help me, don't tear my clothes, I'll give you money, my family has money.
A bad suspicion arose in my heart. I grabbed her shoulders, staring into her dull eyes.
You were abducted, weren't you?
Julia kept repeating those words, her eyes unfocused on the floor. I felt a wave of weakness. I should have known from her behavior on the first night. A deep sorrow enveloped me. Julia was 16 this year, but how long had she been here? She had been trapped in this hell for 16 years. 16 years.
I'll save you, I'll save you.
She quieted down, gripping my hand tightly with immense strength. The crescent moon outside was blood red, seemingly reflecting the village's evil. She suddenly stood up and grabbed a knife, hacking at the wall until she removed a brick. Behind the wall was an empty space.
Emily, have some candy.
I took it and looked at the wall. Inside was a backpack containing some papers, money, and an identification card that read Emma, Donghua University. I turned to look at her.
No, we'll go out and have something nice to eat.
I put the brick back in place. Julia watched my actions quietly, looking somewhat obedient. The money inside solved my immediate problems. Although I had taken over Emily's body, I had no money. These days, I had been troubled by this, but now I felt relieved.
This will help us for a while.
I would sneak over to John's house every few days to check on Alice. She could occasionally come out now, but she was still very thin. It seemed that dealing with Grace had exhausted her.
Alice, are you all right?
It's okay, Emily. I'm not afraid.
Lies. How could she not be afraid? She was terrified. Helen was the best at lying. In her previous life, she would stay up all night, exhausted, yet still tell me she was fine. I was terrified of not saving her, of letting her suffer again.
I believe in you, Emily. From the first moment I saw you, I felt you were someone I could rely on.
In that moment, tears streamed down my face where she couldn't see. I told Alice about Lily and John, advising her to use this as leverage if John ever tried to harm her. Besides watching over her, I also grew closer to Lily, subtly hinting that she needed to keep a tight grip on John.
You know, John can be quite the charmer when he wants to be.
Just be careful. Don't let him get anyone else, in trouble. It would make things harder for you.
Lily trusted me a lot, thinking I was a fool who wouldn't reveal her secrets, so she shared some details about her and John. Every time I listened, I felt a mix of irony and disgust.
You should really keep a close eye on him, Lily.
Don't worry, I have my ways.
As I left Lily's room again, I ran into Michael. His gloomy eyes made me extremely uncomfortable, sending shivers down my spine. He suddenly grabbed me, the foul smell making me want to vomit.
Let go of me.
A surge of survival instinct kicked in, and I turned and kicked him hard, hitting his lame leg. The door was indeed locked from the outside, and I climbed over the wall to escape without looking back. I could hear Michael's venomous curses from the base of the wall. Betty came looking for me, standing at my door and cursing me as a harlot and a wretch, accusing me of seducing her son and hurting him. Other villagers gathered to watch the commotion.
You should apologize to Michael and marry him to make amends.
I noticed the mix of smugness and malice in Betty's eyes and was about to say something. A figure rushed out from the house with a long stick, hitting anyone in sight.
Julia's going crazy again, really?
Betty's expression froze. She was closest to the door and got the worst of it, covered in marks. She gave me and Julia a venomous look before leaving reluctantly.
Let's go inside, Julia.
I was about to enter the house but paused, overhearing two people talking.
That woman from the Lee family is usually so fierce, but she doesn't dare mess with Julia.
You don't understand. Julia was once beaten by 3 men and still held on without giving up, just went mad. The Lee family might not be able to handle her.
I closed my eyes briefly and led Julia inside. Michael was a big problem. He needed to be dealt with.
How could I come up with a plan that kills 2 birds with 1 stone?
I suddenly remembered Lily had once mentioned that Michael was hiding in the village to escape his debts. Because I was considered a fool, no one in the village hid information from me. It only took me 2 days to gather all the details about Michael's debts.
That night, I sneaked to the small shop at the village entrance and called those people, telling them Michael's location.
There was a moment of silence on the other end before they decided to come for Michael the next day.
This is our only and best chance to escape.
All right.
Back home, I took out the things Julia had hidden, planning to pack them in her backpack.
No, no.
Give this to me, and I'll take you away tomorrow.
Julia's hands froze, her reaction intense as she stared at me, repeating,
Leave, leave.
Yes, I'll take you away.
The next morning, I sneaked out to check, and sure enough, there were many men in black at the entrance of the Lee family house.
20,000, not a penny less.
The leader pulled out a knife, gesturing towards Michael.
I'll give you my daughter, please let my son go.
Mom.
Betty just looked at the men pleadingly, kowtowing repeatedly.
Please let my son go, let him go.
The men glanced at Lily's appearance and signaled two of their subordinates to drag her away. Lily struggled desperately, but she couldn't match the strength of the two strong men and was dragged to the front.
John, save me. I'm carrying your child. You can't let them take me.
The Lee family and Grace looked displeased.
What use is a broken shoe to me? Pay up, or Michael's hand won't be spared today.
The other two threw Lily to the ground. Lily clutched her stomach, a pool of blood spreading beneath her.
Grace, take responsibility.
Henry raised his cane and struck John hard. Michael was held at knife point by the men, trembling in fear.
It was quite a show. It was karma.
I immediately went back to pack our things, which was just Julia's backpack with some raw grains inside. I led Julia along a small path to the entrance of the back mountain, and sure enough, I saw Alice hiding under a tree with a backpack.
Sophia, you made it.
We didn't dare to delay. While everyone was still caught up in the commotion and not paying attention to us, we quickly entered the mountain. To get out of this village, we had to climb many mountains. To avoid being discovered and followed by the villagers, I deliberately took a longer route. We even traveled by night and slept during the day to avoid detection. After 3 days of traveling, we drank rainwater collected in tree trunks because we didn't dare to go near streams for fear of being found. The little food we brought was long gone, and we had to eat wild fruits to stave off hunger. After the long journey, all three of us had lost weight. But fortunately, we were almost out. After crossing the mountains, we needed to cross a river. Following the river downstream would lead us to the county.
It's strange that there has been no sign of pursuit for days.
Don't overthink it. We're almost out. It's normal to feel anxious.
Don't worry, big sister.
I smiled reassuringly at them. In the evening, it started to rain heavily. We trudged forward, drenched by the relentless rain. Finally, we reached the river, which had swollen and looked intimidating.
Should we rest for a bit?
I was pondering when I suddenly noticed a light behind us. I turned around in shock to see the villagers approaching.
They're coming!
Alice saw it too, and she started trembling, her lips pale, whether from cold or fear, I couldn't tell.
While there's still some distance away, let's cross the river now.
Okay, let's do it.
Alice methodically took out a rope and picked up 3 branches, handing them to me and Julia.
You go first. I'll stay here and control the rope to prevent you from being swept away.
Alice hesitated, and I shouted at her.
Go!
She was halfway across when the villagers arrived. Leading them was Michael. His sleeve was empty, and he glared at me venomously.
Caught you, little brat. After what you did to me, you think you can escape? Not so easy.
I glanced at the people behind him holding torches, John, Tom, even Henry, and Grace among a group of women. We couldn't fight them. I knew that very well. I looked back to see Alice almost at the riverbank. Noticing my gaze, her eyes filled with panic, and she shook her head frantically.
Cross the river and find that girl on the other side. She will take care of you.
The crowd stirred, and Grace tore off her usual gentle demeanor, her voice hoarse.
Emily, I never thought you were pretending to be foolish all these years. But today, you've crossed me, and you're out of luck.
A group of people pressed me to the ground harshly. Someone slapped me hard across the face, again and again. The slaps were so hard that my ears rang, and I started seeing stars.
Emily is practically my fiancée, but she's too disobedient. Why don't we teach her a lesson right here?
A group of men laughed lewdly, their eyes scanning me up and down. Michael began to undress me, his rough hands on my neck making me feel physically ill. The women stood aside, watching the scene unfold coldly. Just as I was about to bite my tongue to end it all, I heard Michael scream. I opened my eyes to see a thin, dripping figure biting his hand fiercely, tearing off a piece of flesh.
What a madwoman.
Michael kicked Julia to the ground. She clutched her stomach, stood up, and while no one was looking, pushed me into the river, then picked up a branch to guard the shore.
Come down with me.
She glanced at me, seemingly wanting to jump down and grab my hand, but Michael, in a fit of rage, hit her head with a stone, and she fell to the ground. As Michael walked towards me, Julia grabbed his leg, and they both fell into the river, disappearing beneath the surface. My face was wet. I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears, but I swam desperately to the other side. I couldn't let Julia down. I had to survive. After crossing the river, I hurried down the mountain with Alice. Because of the rain, they couldn't catch up with us today, but we couldn't be sure there weren't people in the town. We didn't dare take a car, fearing we'd run into people from the village, so we bought clean clothes in the city, disguised ourselves, and planned to leave on foot. When we finally left the town and seemed to reach another county, I had Alice use a public phone to contact our family. We hid beside a narrow garbage dump, eating cold buns. Finally, 2 days later, a car appeared in front of us. A man in black ran towards Alice.
Helen, we finally found you.
Another man in gray helped me into the car. I anxiously looked at Alice, seeing her leaning against the man, crying softly, and then she fainted with relief. When I woke up, it was 3 days later. I found myself in a hospital bed, with Alice leaning over me. She lifted her head joyfully when she heard me stir.
Emily, you're finally awake.
A polite man standing nearby said to me.
I'm Daniel, Helen's fiancé. Thank you for saving her.
I was stunned when I saw his face. In my previous life, I had seen Daniel at the entrance of our shabby neighborhood, sitting in a luxury car, staring motionlessly at the third floor. Following his gaze, I realized it was directed at our home. I had thought he was a suitor of my mother's and had even told her that I wouldn't mind if she wanted to be with him.
How could I ever be worthy of him?
Now I understood. It wasn't that she wasn't worthy of him, they were clearly a perfect match. But because of me and that sordid past, she had lost the courage to embrace her true love. He was also the man in black who had knelt in the hallway, grieving when my mother passed away. Seeing my stunned expression, Daniel looked puzzled. A gentle male voice broke the silence.
The young lady just woke up. She's still a bit disoriented.
I looked at him. It was the young man in gray. He introduced himself.
Hello, Emily. I'm Samuel.
Later, I met my mother's relatives. When an elderly man in a military uniform stood before me, I understood what kind of life my mother had once lived. If it weren't for those scoundrels, she could have lived a dignified life. They thanked me profusely.
We've been searching for so long, and it was you who brought her out. If you have any requests, Just let us know, and we'll do our best to fulfill them.
What about the people in the village?
A fierce look flashed in his eyes.
We've already sent the police to arrest them. The village chief and the county head were colluding, and who knows how many women they had taken over the years. It's time they face justice.
I nodded, suddenly remembering Julia.
Can you help me buy a burial plot?
Julia was buried in a beautiful place with mountains and rivers. They had specially chosen a good spot for her. I didn't know where her body was. They had sent people to search but couldn't find it. Based on her name, I asked them to find her relatives, but the result was that all her relatives had passed away one by one in their endless search. I fell silent upon hearing this. Later, I placed her favorite pink hair tie, the candies she loved but couldn't bear to eat, and her other small belongings into the grave. The tombstone solemnly read Emma's grave. I touched her tombstone one last time.
See, I not only fulfilled my promise to let you eat delicious candies, but also avenged you. Those scoundrels are in prison now, and I heard they were sentenced to death.
My hand suddenly became somewhat transparent, even passing through the tombstone. My heart tightened, and I quickly straightened up. My right hand was still intact, as if what had just happened was an illusion.
Emily.
Afraid of being found out, I quickly walked towards them.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Don't be sad. Grandpa said he wants you to go to college with us. Are you happy? From now on, you are part of our family.
I was stunned, looking at Daniel and then at her. Well, let's help her one last time. As long as she's happy. The strange feeling in my body appeared a few more times, becoming more frequent. It took a lot of effort to hide it from them. Actually, Alice and Daniel were fine, but Samuel was always around me for some reason, and he wasn't easy to fool.
Samuel, why are you always tagging along?
I don't want to be a third wheel between Daniel and Alice.
I had no choice but to let him be. When we entered college together, it was the same. Daniel studied law, Samuel studied economics, and Alice and I were in the same major, Chinese literature. Every time, Daniel would take Alice away, leaving me alone with Samuel. I felt a bit helpless, but seeing the eager look on his face, I could only go along with it. Daniel and Alice grew closer, and their families planned to have their wedding during the summer break.
Samuel, did you hear those rumors about us?
Yes, and they make me furious.
He didn't talk to me for days, but still came to pick me up for classes and brought me breakfast, knowing I didn't like to eat in the morning. Daniel couldn't stand it and secretly asked me what was going on.
He's been sulking for days, making me very uncomfortable.
I'll talk to him.
Go.
Just as he turned around, I suddenly called out to him.
Daniel, you have to make Helen happy.
Don't worry, I'll cherish her like my life.
Then, I felt relieved. I bought breakfast to make peace with Samuel, and he was so happy he almost wagged his tail like a silly dog. Daniel and Alice's wedding came quickly. I sat at the main table, watching them stand there hand in hand, exchange rings, and kiss. Tears unknowingly streamed down my face.
Don't cry, my dear. If you're envious, we can have a wedding like this next year.
I looked at him through my tears, and he suddenly blushed and avoided my gaze. I should have laughed at him, but for some reason, the tears flowed even more. At the end of the wedding, I suddenly suggested taking a group photo for memory's sake.
What a perfect pair of couples. May you live happily ever after.
My condition worsened, until one day, the TV broadcasted news about an accomplice in an abduction case being executed today. A mechanical voice entered my mind.
Wish fulfilled. Are you ready to leave?
Why is this happening?
Your wish was to return your mother to her rightful, untainted path. Now that John is no longer here, it means you no longer have a reason to exist.
What will happen to me?
As you can see, you will disappear.
Ah, so that's how it is. At that moment, many people flashed through my mind: Julia, Alice, Daniel, but in the end, I realized the one I couldn't let go of the most was Samuel.
Can I have a little more time? I want to see him.
Go ahead, you have half an hour.
In that half hour, I ran downstairs to find Samuel. I bought a large bouquet of roses from a flower shop on the way and finally arrived at his house with 3 minutes to spare.
You agreed?
The language of roses is, I love you passionately and devoutly.
He stood there holding the flowers, stunned. With 1 minute left, I suddenly stood on tiptoe and kissed his lips, choking out.
Let me indulge just this once.
My body shattered into countless pieces in an instant. I stood above, watching Samuel's panicked expression, tears slowly falling.
Can you erase everyone's memory of me?
Are you sure? That means you will never be remembered by anyone, your existence will be completely erased.
It's okay. As long as they are happy.
In fact, at the end of that notebook, I once wrote, if my mother could have a perfect, smooth future, even if I can't be part of that future, even if I will be erased from this world, I would still be content. But within that scope of happiness, I want to add Samuel's name.